This reading is the prologue and chapter 1 from the book Very Young Catholics in Canada. This book is part of the Very Young Catholic series. Each book in the series tells the story of the life of a Catholic child in a different time zone of the world. Prologue. This is a picture of the Earth from space. The white that you see in the picture is snow in the Arctic around the North Pole. There are lots of children in this book. They all live in the northwest part of Canada, some in British Columbia, and some in the Yukon. The gold star shows you where all the children live. Chapter 1. Lanterns in the Darkness. On a cold November evening in the far north of Canada, a lively group of young families celebrated Martinmas, which is the feast of St. Martin of Tours. This festive tradition is very old, since St. Martin was born all the way back in the year 316. The families gathered for Mass, a procession, a bonfire, treats, a play, and a lantern launch. In Canada, in November, it gets cold and dark very early. The children needed light to have a procession, so they made lanterns. On the day of the procession, some of them went with their dads to gather lots of wood for the bonfire and prepare the path for the procession. They made Swedish torches to light the way. To make the torches, they sawed wooden logs into pieces about 2 feet long. They set the pieces upright and cut slits along the side, stopping a few inches above the ground. The slits were stuffed full of kindling, which was then set on fire. The flames burned down toward the inside of the logs, which stayed lit for hours. When everything was ready, they all went to Mass together. Then they went outside and had the procession, carrying the lanterns they had made. They ended up around the bonfire where everyone had treats, while 2 of the children performed the story of St. Martin and the beggar. It is the most famous story about St. Martin. This is how it goes. Long ago, one cold morning in France, when Martin was a young Roman soldier, he was riding along a road on his horse. He met a beggar who did not have enough clothes to keep warm. Martin took off his cloak, cut it in half, and gave half to the beggar. The night after Martin gave half his cloak away, he dreamed that he encountered Jesus wearing the same half cloak. He knew that the dream meant that his kindness to the beggar had been done for Jesus himself. Any good thing that we do for a person, we also do for Christ. Maybe the beggar was actually Christ. While one of the moms read the story aloud, 2 of the boys, named Isaac and Andre, appeared in costume to act it out. Isaac was Martin. He wore a bright red cloak and a silver hood that looked like the armor of a soldier. Andre was the beggar. Andre was only wearing a t-shirt and a hat with holes in it. It wasn't hard for him to pretend that he was cold. All the other kids and their parents were the audience. They watched carefully to see if Isaac was going to do the right thing and share his cloak. Isaac was supposed to bring 2 red cloaks for the play. Then he could pretend to cut his cloak in half by pulling the 2 cloaks away from each other. Since he forgot the second cloak, he only had one, and he had to tear it in half for real. That made everyone clap and cheer, because it was much more dramatic than just pretending. That was the end of the play, but of course St. Martin did not become a saint just by doing one thing. He became more and more kind and holy for the rest of his life, and the people around him loved him. After he became a saint, people had parties on his feast day for hundreds of years. They sang songs and had treats and made bonfires. The families in Canada were joining in centuries of celebration. For the last part of the festivities, everyone walked a little way to a high cliff overlooking a frozen river. Every family had a huge paper lantern. The grown-ups filled them with hot gas, which was really exciting to watch. When they were full, the children let the wind carry the lanterns away over the edge of the cliff. The wind was so strong that night that they whirled and spun. In the end, the lanterns flew away with the wind over the treetops and into the sky. Everyone watched them drifting farther and farther until they just looked like more stars. The night was cold and dark, but they had created light and warmth and laughter and joy and beauty in the name of Jesus and his servant Martin. This was the prologue and chapter 1 from the book Very Young Catholics in Canada.